The political establishment is in absolute shambles right now, and Fox News is officially hitting the panic button. We are breaking down the massive fallout from the recent New York primaries, where a historic clean sweep saw all three progressive candidates endorsed by Zohran Mamdani pull off stunning victories. The corporate status quo is terrified, and they are already rushing to the airwaves to weaponize labels and smear the results. But today, we are looking at the exact moment their desperate narrative got completely derailed on live television. You do not want to miss this breakdown. Before we dive into the tape, do me a huge favor, smash that like button, hit subscribe to stay ahead of the spin, and drop a comment below letting me know where you are watching from today. Let's get straight into it.
In success after attacking Israel on the campaign trail. All three candidates endorsed by Democratic Socialist Mayor Zohran Mamdani made their anti-Israel stance a centerpiece of their campaigns. Incumbent Congressman Dan Goldman, who is Jewish, lost his primary to one of those candidates. And he says his opponent's message wasn't just anti-Israel, but anti-Semitic. Watch.
Outright anti-Semitism, which is on the rise, something I certainly felt during this campaign, and is something that the entire Democratic Party, not just Jews, are going to have to grapple with. And it cannot just be on the Jewish community itself to defend against anti-Semitism. It is going to have to be a unified effort from everyone who believes in equal rights and civil rights and social justice to band together and to acknowledge that this is a form of hate.
Far-left candidates with similar platforms are running in state and federal races all across the country, many of them on your screen. And they're gaining traction in races against more moderate Democrats. Opposing Israel is just one part of the socialist platform that's dividing Democrats. Some establishment lawmakers have spoken out against the far left's anti-cop, anti-capitalist rhetoric, but the DSA is reportedly plotting on ways to take their ideas all the way to 2028. Marie, let's start with you.
I knew that was coming. I could sense you turning.
Yeah, do you agree with this premise? Does it frighten you? Are there concerns emanating throughout the Democratic Party of what the anti-Semitism, how it has been fomented or as appearing?
Well, look, I have lots of thoughts on this. First, I would say what we are seeing across the country is an anti-incumbency, anti-establishment movement that people, in both parties are like, we want you out, we want new leaders. On this issue, look, when it comes to Dan Goldman, he was beat by a fellow Jewish politician, Brad Lander, who calls himself a liberal Zionist. He doesn't support Israel killing civilians in Gaza. He doesn't support what the Israeli government is doing in the West Bank. But for Dan Goldman to say that is anti-Semitism, look, we are all opposed to anti-Semitism. I've worked on this issue for a long time, and we need to call it out when it is there. And there are some Democratic candidates who I think are there, and I really do not want to be part of my party and do not support. But someone like Brad Lander, we have to have room in this country to oppose the Netanyahu administration in Israel, to say that Israeli policy is not good without all being called anti-Semites. And to say that Brad Lander, who is Jewish, who got a lot of the Jewish community to support him in ousting Dan Goldman, is somehow anti-Israel and anti-Semitic, that is a cheap shot. And quite frankly, it weakens the argument when we do call out actual anti-Semitism, of which there is a lot on the right.
Goldman had his money refunded at a coffee shop. My gosh.
Are you going to call
Brad Lander? He's calling out anti-Semitism because he was a victim of it 48 hours ago. And that should be the focus right now. Chevalier, okay, you want to talk about Brad Lander? Let's talk about Chevalier, who after babies were put in ovens on October 7th, the day after, she attended a pro-Palestine rally where there were speakers who attempted to justify October 7th.
And I obviously don't support that, Kaylee.
Claire Valdez, when they put Goldman on the screen at the victory party, her victory party, the crowd was chanting F AIPAC. You need to reckon with this part of your party. I'm going to quote Sarah Foreman, a Democratic strategist. She said, this is the version of the Democrats that the voting population of New York wants. We need to stop pretending it is not the case. These are socialists, in most cases, anti-Semites. 66% of your party wants socialism.
Why did so many Jews vote for them if they're all anti-Semites?
In all due respect, because I love you and you're a smart political person in mind. But if you think we were talking off air about John Ossoff that you think could win a Democratic primary.
Absolutely.
No way, no how. You're looking at an AOC winning a Democratic primary. Socialism is the way forward for your party. 66% of Democrats say it. And until you reckon with it, we're having a socialism takeover of a party that represents half the country.
Here's the challenge with Israel. I have never seen in my political career of 20 years any issue on the right and the left crater in public support over the last several years as much as support for Israel. And that is not because they're all anti-Semites. There are some, and we need to call them out. And I agree with you, Kayleigh. But a lot of that is because of what the Netanyahu government is doing. And look, yes, these candidates win in New York. These Democratic Socialists win in New York. That's not who Democrats are running in swing states. John Ossoff bridges the parts of the party, moderates, progressives, including on Israel.
Netanyahu didn't refund a man's money at a coffee shop.
Can I jump in on the nationwide thing?
I'm just saying that we have to, look, across the country, support for Israel is cratering. And for those of us who want Israel to be safe and secure, we need to grapple with why.
Israel and Jewish Americans are not the same thing.
I agree with you.
This is our country. And if you want to press against, you know, a lobbyist, AIPAC, and
safe and secure,
we need to grapple with why. Israel and Jewish Americans are not the same thing.
I agree with you.
This is our country. And if you want to press against, you know, a lobbyist, AIPAC, and you want to do, don't make it commensurate with hating Jews. Your party is in the place of, fine, then rein in the people who are expressing hate.
What about the people on the conservative side expressing hate that have been doing this, that have been talking?
Don't you? We're talking about
no, but
the
like if you
takeover
call
of
out
the
Democrats, call out Republicans
American
too.
Party.
This is not a Democratic problem.
Let's go nationwide.
This is not a Democratic problem.
We don't have anti-Semites, two of whom won a primary just Tuesday night.
Do you know how
Name for me the two Republican anti-Semites that won a primary.
I could give you a list of 100.
Okay, let's go nationwide. In Maine, an oyster farming Nazi,
That's not
Plagner.
true.
In Michigan, you've got El Sayed, who is Hassan Piker's most famous fan. You've got on this coming Tuesday out in Denver, Colorado, you have a congresswoman, an incumbent moderate of sorts, Diana DeGette, who has been there for probably 30 years, running against a 29-year-old Malat Quiros. She has no political experience. She was fired from her New York lawyer job for writing anti-Semitic, anti-Israel stuff. You're seeing this happen all across the country. And the fact that the Democrat Socialists of America, in 2015, they had 6,000 people. Bernie Sanders launches a quasi-socialist campaign. They say, let's hitch our wagon up to this. Even though we're farther to the left, let's see where it takes us. Today, they just had a hat-trick sweep in New York, and they have more than 100,000 members nationwide with their eyes set on taking down Hakeem Jeffries.
Because people know that the system isn't working for them. This is the thing. People, I don't think a lot of these voters that voted for Democratic Socialists also voted for Donald Trump in 2024. So some of it is about policies. I mean, we can look at the data. It's just the numbers don't lie.
Welcome back. If you want a masterclass in political panic, look no further than the establishment's reaction to the latest primary results out of New York. The second grassroots progressives notch a victory. The status quo playbook gets deployed immediately. Weaponize labels, blur the lines of legitimate policy debate, and pretend the sky is falling. Fox News is screaming about a reckoning, pointing to the sweep of 3 candidates endorsed by Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani. We just saw a clip of unseated establishment figures complaining that the campaign trail felt anti-Semitic. But let's look at what actually happened on that panel, because the lone liberal voice in that room absolutely cleared the air while the rest of the couch tried to stir up a storm. The anti-establishment wave. First of all, let's talk about the reality of the current political landscape. What we are seeing across the country isn't some sudden, shadowy ideological hijacking. It's a roaring anti-incumbency movement. Voters are frustrated with structural stagnation, and they are demanding fresh leadership. As was pointed out during the debate, the political establishment wants to blame their losses on prejudice rather than looking in the mirror. When voters reject corporate-backed insiders, it's a demand for accountability, plain and simple. Policy criticism is not bigotry. The core of the issue on that panel, and the point where the liberal analyst completely derailed the conservative narrative, is the dangerous conflation of criticizing a foreign government's military policy with bigotry against an entire group of people. We have to have room in this country to oppose the Netanyahu administration in Israel, to say that Israeli policy is not good without all being called anti-Semitic. When you throw that label around cheaply, it actually weakens the argument when we need to call out actual, real bigotry. Let's break down why that pushback was so incredibly vital. Targeting the policy, not the people. Opposing the civilian death toll in Gaza or expressing deep concern over aggressive policies in the West Bank is a debate about human rights and foreign affairs. It is completely distinct from targeting Jewish communities. The danger of cheap shots. When political insiders use the label of antisemitism as a cynical shield to protect their preferred foreign policy status quo, they dilute the gravity of the term. It makes it harder to fight genuine, dangerous antisemitism when it actually rears its head on the far right or anywhere else. The monolith myth. One of the most profound moments of the segment came when a painlist rightly stated that Israel the nation-state and Jewish Americans are not the same thing. To treat them as a monolith is structurally incorrect and inherently dismissive of the diverse political opinions held within the Jewish community itself. Look at figures like Brad Lander, a self-described liberal Zionist who explicitly critiques current Israeli government tactics. The bottom line. The conservative panel tried to pivot to extreme rally footage and chants against groups like AIPAC to prove a radical takeover is underway. But public support for the current Israeli administration strategy is cratering globally, not because of a sudden shift in prejudice, but because people are watching the humanitarian reality unfold in real time. If the establishment wants to win elections, they need to offer better policy solutions and address the anxieties of working-class voters. Constantly calling your progressive primary opponents illegitimate or bigoted for holding mainstream humanitarian views isn't just a bad strategy, it's an insult to the intelligence of the electorate. The New York primaries weren't a dark socialist conspiracy, they were a democracy doing exactly what it's supposed to do, forcing a conversation the establishment desperately wants to avoid. What do you think? Do you agree with our analysis, or are we missing the bigger picture? Please share your thoughts in the comment section. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Reactionary Politics for more interesting breakdowns.